Welcome to Space to Ground. I'm Sarah Volkman. All of NASA and SpaceX are gearing up for what is going to be another historic day in human spaceflight. On Saturday, May 30th, NASA and SpaceX will launch humans to the International Space Station inside an American vehicle from the Florida coast. After several years of collaborative development, training, and other preparations, the Demo 2 mission will kick off with a launch from the Kennedy Space Center's Launch Complex 39A, carrying NASA astronauts Doug Hurley and Bob Behnken. Liftoff is scheduled for 3:22 p.m. Eastern. The Crew Dragon will travel to the International Space Station, checking off many operations along the way before beginning its rendezvous and docking procedures. It is scheduled to dock to the International Space Station Sunday morning. The continuous coverage of the DM2 mission will last from launch until the Dragon hatches open and the crew takes part in a well-deserved welcome ceremony. They'll be joined by friend and station commander Chris Cassidy, along with cosmonauts Anatoly Ivanishin and Ivan Wagner. As always, you can watch it live on NASA TV, nasa.gov, and on all of our social media. In addition to preparing for the Demo 2 crew's arrival, the current space station crew was also busy capturing a special delivery. The HTV-9, a Japan Aerospace Exploration Agency cargo craft, was captured by the crew using the space station's Canadarm2 robotic arm Monday morning. It was installed to the space station's Harmony module shortly after by robotic arm operators in Mission Control Houston. It will remain on the space station for about 2 months before being released, marking the final mission for this class of spacecraft, called Kunotori. Keep sending your questions using the hashtag AskNASA, and share your thoughts on the historic launch of the Crew Dragon from Florida using the hashtag LaunchAmerica. We'll see you next week.
On the other hand, I still would love to go, and I think people will go, simply because it's in our nature as living creatures that life has a tendency to occupy unoccupied niches, and so I think life will spread into the universe, and we are just a part of that. And so for me, that's a basic sort of like what Dirac would call a basic belief, which doesn't need to be justified, that life has beautified this planet so enormously, and compared with this planet, everything else in the universe is rather dull, and all the planets we observe, because there's nothing living there. Life
Launch trajectory countdown net. Pad is clear. Go for launch.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Ignition, liftoff.
The private-public partnerships, the way the President's been able to mobilize the private sector and everything from the COVID-19 response to passing the Tax Cut and Jobs Act years ago, the dereg agenda, and now SpaceX is really remarkable. Some people who have been in government, indeed worked in the building behind me, believe government is always the solution, only the government. We've never believed that. We love to bring to bear a massive project, an American project like SpaceX, so people can also see the human exploration but also the scientific progress that we think can come from a very exciting launch like this. And I'm glad that you're going to cover it live. I hope everyone is. It's very exciting. These kids have all been locked in, e-learning, distance learning. We're toward the end of the school year now for most of them. Let them tune in and see this great expression of human ingenuity and innovation and scientific progress. That's what the president is and the vice president are very focused on here. And apart from that, but relatedly, the president he does have Space Force now, the first branch of the armed forces in 72 years. Part of the Air Force, and since we had the Air Force 72 years ago or so, this is a branch of government, a branch of the military. The president has made very clear how important it is to continue going into space to explore and to make some medical innovations if we can.
Mains have been deployed.
I think life will spread into the universe, and we are just a part of that. For me, that's a basic, what Iraq would call a basic belief. Life is compared with this planet, everything else in the universe is rather dull. All the planets we observe are pretty boring compared with the Earth because there's nothing living there. And if life could just expand out into the universe, the whole universe would just become vastly more diverse and vastly more. On the other hand, I still would love to go. Why shouldn't we do that? And I think people will be the midwives to make that possible. Simply because it's in our nature. Anyway, to me, as living creatures, it's a question of when, and not life has a tendency to occupy unoccupied niches. And so I think life will spread into the universe. And we are just a part of that. And so for me, that's a basic, sort of like what Iraq would call a basic belief, which doesn't need to be justified, that life has beautified this planet so enormously, and compared with this planet, everything else in the universe is rather dull, and all the planets we observe are pretty boring compared with the Earth, because there's nothing living there. And if life could just expand out into the universe, the whole universe would just become vastly more diverse and vastly more interesting. And why shouldn't we do that? And we should be the midwives to make that possible. Anyway, to me, it's a question of when and not a question of why. And of course, it has to be cheap. That I'm not interested in billion-dollar missions to Mars. That seems to me a dead end, just as the Apollo missions to the moon were a dead end. They were too expensive to be sustained. And so that's not the way to do it. But it will become cheap just because the technology improves all the time.
Countdown net. Pad is clear. Go for launch.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Ignition, liftoff.